Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Community Development, Housing, and General Government Committee meeting. Today, we have 9 consent items, and we have 5 general agenda items. At this time, would anyone, any of the committee or council members like any of the consent items pulled for discussion?
C3.
C3? And C4. May I have a motion to approve the balance of the consent agenda?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor, would you please vote? All those opposed, vote no. Councilmember Clark.
I just want to make a comment. There are a number of items on here, particularly in the housing area, that will also be on the Finance Committee tomorrow.
She got it. All right, thank you. And the motion passes. Would the city clerk please call the consent item, the first one?
Item C3, resolution authorizing to convey 4 city-owned vacant lots located in the Cleveland Avenue neighborhood to Glabex Consortium LLC for the purpose of increasing the supply of affordable housing for low and moderate income persons as permitted by Session Law 2021-44, SB 145, located in the Northeast Ward.
Council, I've already made you a council member. Assistant City Manager King.
Good afternoon, Mayor Pro Tem and members of City Council. I'm glad to offer an explanation, but if there's a specific question, we can try to hit it that way too.
Yes, this is a specific question. My question is actually to the committee members, and my concern is that the company involved here is a for-profit business, and we're giving them what we typically do for nonprofits would be to convey at $1 the land. And it was my understanding generally that we would convey to for-profit businesses based on the tax rate. But I understand that for affordable housing, we could do either way. My big concern is going forward that we would have a policy that would be fair and equitable to whomever would like our city properties, and that we would either, we will say they are going to go for $1 for affordable housing, or we do the tax value, but we wouldn't discriminate. So I would, that's my big issue for this. What is going to be our policy with the city land when it comes to for-profit businesses, because I think we're going to run into this again.
City Attorney, would you like to weigh in?
Yes, good afternoon, committee members, Mayor Pro Tem. The session law that was obtained in June of 2021 allows the city to convey the lots with or without consideration for affordable housing purposes. And basically for the single-family lots, the residential single-family lots that have been kind of hard to sell, basically it was my understanding that the city council was going to convey those lots for $1 or of nominal value. Yes, the council has authorized at least one sale of 21 lots for tax value, but council has the ability to convey them for $1 or some other nominal amount.
Councilmember Clark, then Councilmember McIntosh.
Comment and a question. I think it would be helpful if we could find out what the actual tax value is on these.
It's on there.
Look at Exhibit B.
They're there.
Hang on a minute. B?
No.
B or A?
Last one.
It's
Tax
A.
value, A.
It's A.
Okay, fine.
Sorry, Exhibit A. It says Exhibit B at the top when you open it up, but it's Exhibit A.
Okay, thank you. My question is, do we have a clawback procedure that if these lots are given at a nominal value or $1 or whatever it may be, that if the work isn't done within a reasonable time, that the city would get the lots back?
City Attorney.
Okay. Regardless of whether or not it's conveyed for $1 or tax value, there is a callback provision. Basically, they have 24 months to complete construction of all of the units, and if construction is not completed, the lots come back with everything that's on the lot. Now, after that, once it's conveyed to a homeowner, there are some other provisions in terms of remedies that are available if it's not maintained in accordance with code, affordable housing, and so forth.
Thank you.
Councilmember McIntyre.
My understanding of the way, or the reason why we asked for the legislation from the state was that we wanted to put as many lots back into use as possible. In this case, I think I'm very comfortable offering these for $1 because the tax value is relatively low. If these were high, if the tax value of these was above what we're comfortable giving on a per door basis, I would have a different opinion. But $8,500 is the most expensive one here, the highest tax value. I'm very comfortable subsidizing a house being built for $8,500. I think that falls well within our matrix. Now, at some point, we're going to run into a situation where more than one group might want a lot, the same piece of real estate. I think we need, Mayor Pro Tem and I have talked about that. We need to have a little policy around that, about how we deal with that. But if we can get 4 more houses into production and hand 4 sets of keys over at this rate, I'm perfectly happy with this.
Councilmember Burke, then Councilmember Monday. Since it's in your
Thank you, MPT. As we all know, this is an area east of Cleveland that I've been trying to transform for the past years. And in order to create brand new, beautiful, affordable housing, and knowing what the tax value is for these current lots, we're trying to make this as attractive as possible for potential builders. And we're trying to create beautiful homes and transform this neighborhood so that it will attract potential home buyers. And we're working with several builders right now, and I see at least 3 of them out in the audience today. And this is just the beginning. And this is a very unique situation, very unique community. It's not like downtown. It's not like the Southwest Ward. It is closely similar to the East Ward and the Southeast Ward. So we've got to do something different if we're going to transform these communities where no investment has occurred for years. Thank you.
Councilmember Monday.
I support the sale. I have a question. I'm not sure if it'd be to Councilmember Burke or to Assistant City Manager King, but how did this consortium find us? How did we find them? How did we come together? Is that somebody you were working on?
So, excuse me. So, Councilmember Mundy, I think this is an area you heard Councilmember Burke articulate that she's been heavily focused on this east of Cleveland area. And you may remember, I can't remember what month it was, but we brought 4 lots for conveyance to Habitat for the exact same purposes. I think Councilmember Burke has been heavily invested in trying to find builders that will come in and take some of these city lots, convey them to them to get new housing coming out of the ground. I can't remember if Dr. Okafor reached out or how we got in contact with him, but it's basically been the same process where if there's been an interest by a party on some of the city-owned lots, we have the same exact conversation, explain the city affordable housing policies, Housing Justice Act, all the strings that come with it. The same metrics are in place for all of these, and the same as C2 on your agenda.
Great. I think if we could find builders to do more, we'd be in good shape.
Councilmember Scipio.
I am still very concerned that we are not going to have a policy that's fair to anyone who wants these city lots. So there's a Dr. Okafor. I don't know him, but if someone else wants to buy a city lot and build a house, are we going to then make sure that they have it for $1, or are we going to insist on a higher price? At this point, even if we offered it to developers at half the tax value, it gives them some input in it. I believe that nonprofits who have committed to good housing, it's fair to help them in constructing affordable housing. I'm not so certain that we open it up to anyone at $1, unless that's going to be the policy of the council. It's got to be fair for everyone, whether it's a nonprofit or for-profit. So I would not be in favor of giving a for-profit business the properties for $1. I think that if that's going to be the case, then I want us to agree at some point that that will be what we will do for all of our city property, and therefore more people can participate in building houses that are affordable, that are wonderful, and that help rebuild our communities. The reason these lots are at the price they are now is because there hadn't been real investment in these communities for many, many years. And so I'm just concerned about equity. We can talk about it, we can think about it, but I'm not in favor of doing something that's not going to be what we do for everyone. And I know how we are. We will do something today and then do something tomorrow for someone else. We have to not discriminate in this policy. So I'm not in favor of this until we have a commitment, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And these items are also on the Finance Committee's consent tomorrow as well. Councilmember Clark.
I just want to remind everybody, and Ms. Scipio, you have a very valid point there, that on Monday, September the 25th, which is
Week after.
2 weeks from today, or maybe 3 weeks, I don't know, look at the calendar. At 4 o'clock, we are going to have a committee of the whole to talk about housing. These are just the type of questions that we're going to be looking at as far as how do we put some guidelines, guardrails, whatever you want to call it, around our housing policy. So I think we are going to be addressing this and many other questions like that at the committee of the whole meeting.
Recently, council members have been visiting or doing virtual with other municipalities and counties, Wake, Guilford, Mecklenburg, and Durham, as well as Watauga, Asheville, about their housing policies and their trust fund. Basically, that's going to be probably one of the key discussions for the Committee of the Whole on housing. And when we visited Charlotte and even some of the others, and as Councilman McIntosh has noted, and the city attorney was with us, they have a call for proposals for Mecklenburg, and I know that's like Atlanta, New York, but because they get so many, they had to go to twice a year, just like a contract request, that they put it out there, that we are now accepting proposals and bids for any city-owned lots, any development projects that you want the cities to provide gap funding, the counties. And those are the things that we're looking at, because we don't really have yet a process as to how we, as Councilmember Scipio said, how we do this fairly and transparently and equitably so that everybody understand what the rules are or the policies are when it comes to developing the land and lots that the taxpayers of Winston-Salem on. So we'll hear more from that there. I would look, I know Councilmember Scipio is not in favor, but I would look to get a motion on this item, please.
I'll move approval.
Can I ask one other question?
Sure.
Is time of the essence on this?
Yes, time is of the essence. And I want to go back and remind everybody, when I first had many of you on field trips looking east of Winston-Salem and showing you what exists east of Winston-Salem and telling you about my dream and telling you, showing you, pointing out every city-owned lot, because I had been doing my research. Many of my colleagues up here said, you're not going to be able to get anybody to buy those lots. Nobody's going to want to buy those lots and build a house in those locations where the lots exist. So that's where the $1 amount for selling the lots came from. It came from my colleagues up here. And I think that our attorney has explained legislation well so that we all understand that for-profit or nonprofit entities individuals can purchase these lots for $1, and the ultimate purpose is to transform and rebuild a community that was once a beautiful and thriving community. It was once home to so many Black people who were professionals. Some were doctors, some were lawyers, some were educators, factory workers, business owners, men and women. This was a beautiful neighborhood, and the goal is to transform it, and to transform it in the most equitable way that we can. We decided $1. That wasn't me. And legislation supports exactly what we're doing, selling it to profit and nonprofit entities and individuals for that purpose, affordable housing and transformation of this once beautiful community to bring it back to what it once was. Thank you.
I will second with the endorsement that we do get some guidelines for the future.
All right. The resolution item C3 has been moved and seconded. Would you now please vote? Thank you. And the motion passes. Next item, City Clerk, please.
Item C4, resolution authorizing annual submission of Continuum of Care Homeless Assistance Grant application, acceptance of grant funds, and execution of subgrantee agreements.
Good afternoon, Mayor Pro Tem Adams and committee. This item before you is the annual submission of our notice of funding opportunities for the Continuum of Care.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Even though the department heads and directors' names are listed beside the agenda items, when different staff comes up in place of them, I think the public and the people here would like to know your name. Thank you.
Sharika Floyd, COC Program Manager with the Neighborhood Services Department.
Thank you, Ms. Floyd.
No problem.
You may continue.
So I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Councilmember Clark.
Are we applying for the money or are we spending the money?
We're applying for the money that will be granted for the 2024-2025 year.
And when would we hear if we get it?
Spring is usually May,
Okay,
so it wouldn't be until May 2024.
not tomorrow.
No.
All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to deviate and I'm going to allow Dr. Anita Miles to come up and make a few comments before we vote on this item. Dr. Miles.
Good afternoon, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, council members, City Manager Tony. Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I know this is a deviation. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we need your
I'm
name and
sorry.
address. As many times as you've done this.
I'm sorry, I apologize. Arnita Miles, 494 Smithdale Street, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, East Ward. Thank you again, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, committee members. I stand before you again today requesting that you be good stewards with the monies that are being requested from HUD. I request that you be good stewards with the monies that the city will allocate towards our homeless issue. As many of you know, I have spoken to you previously, I am a subject matter expert about homelessness in Winston-Salem and Forsyth County. We have a homeless problem here. Although the city does not want the reputation of having homelessness here, we have it here. We have tent encampments in the Jonestown area. We have tent encampments on Akron Drive. We have tent encampments on Salis Creek Parkway. We have tent encampments across from the Public Safety Center. We have tent encampments in Washington Park. We have tent encampments by Haynes Mall. We have tent encampments on South Main Street. And as many of you know, we have a lot of homeless in downtown Winston-Salem. I want to give you an example of a problem that I occurred 2 weeks ago. I had a homeless female call me saying, Miss Miles, I need a place to stay, and I have a 9-year-old daughter. I said, let me try to help you because that's what I do. I'm boots on the ground. I called the United Way. I called City with Dwellings. I called ESR. I called the Center of Hope, Salvation Army. They were all, there's only one shelter here in the city that has rooms for homeless females with children, and that's Center of Hope. It took 4 days to find or receive a call back. During that time, I learned there were 10 homeless females with children sleeping in their cars. 10. The shelter was full. It took a high-ranking official in Forsyth County to go to Center of Hope to ask what the problem is. Why aren't you answering your phones? I have yet to receive a call back from any of those agencies. Yes, I am a whistleblower. You all know that. But I live in a section of Winston-Salem where I don't have any crime. I don't see the homelessness, but I take myself and I go to areas where there are homeless people. Because to whom much is given, much is required. There's 10 encampments in every one of your wards. And I know that you all care about our homeless problem. You give over $2 million to address homelessness. But the problem is not stopping. So when HUD gives us, the city of Winston-Salem, this $2.5 million, what are you as representatives, elected representatives, going to do with those funds? What are you going to do? Because right now the problem is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And there's no solutions when, if you go to the 11th floor of Truist Tower, and that's where the United Way has its whole headquarters on the 11th floor. Imagine if they took some of those funds and put it into our homeless problem. Y'all know I'm very passionate, but I request humbly that when you're looking at Exhibit A and Exhibit B in this package, that you look at how those funds, that $2.5 million, are allocated when they don't even have people that will answer the phones. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Miles. I'm going to ask Ms. Floyd to come back, and I may even ask Ms. McClain and Ms. Tony to render a comment on this, because we've had a study and a study done on the process of the continuum of care. Now, again, continuum of care is all over the country. It is not just Winston-Salem. Every municipality has major or county has a continuum of care. Ms. Floyd.
The funds that we are currently applying for are not eligible for emergency shelter services. So the funds that we're applying for are mostly used for rental assistance and to support our permanent supportive housing projects. So those are projects for chronically homeless and disabled individuals. They are units that are permanently subsidized, and it also subsidizes housing vouchers for individuals who are chronically homeless or disabled. So the funds that are for emergency shelter and the street outreach teams are very minimum and are from a different pot of money. These funds are for the ongoing for the housing vouchers and other housing services that we receive.
Thank you. Councilmember Clark has a comment.
Quickly, the question was asked, what are some of the answers? And I think if everybody will stay to the end, G3 is one of those answers. It's a conversion of a hotel into
Yes,
for homeless.
yes, we're currently working on that.
So anyway, it's coming. Stay tuned, G3, and we'll get there shortly.
Thank you, Ms. Floyd. One more, well, I have a question. I noticed that, and I know there's a criteria and a process, but I noticed that Whole Man Ministries had 2 requests, and they were turned down. Could you just give us a little bit of information as to what that criteria, just like what you just stated, why they were not selected?
The ineligible activities. So once again, we only have certain things we can fund. So when there are requests for items that are ineligible, we aren't able to fund those. So we encourage everyone to read the RFPs and the HUD criteria prior to applying, because although they are homeless service funds, they do not cover the whole basis for homeless services. We did have one new application from Citywood Dwellings, and that one is to assist more with accessibility, coming out of the continuum of care review. We do need to improve our accessibility of services, so Citywood Dwellings is trying to step in to assist with that accessibility part.
And one thing going forward with the results of the study that was done, I would look to between now and then of when the grant is accepted, that we look at again a report to this committee, as I've asked, on a regular basis, as to how we're faring with those corrective actions that we had to put in place. And again, goes back to how are we auditing for the compliance to the grant as we move forward, okay?
Yes.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councilmember Monday.
Thank you. You said very little was going into emergency shelter. Why is that? Are there no funds available from the federal level or anywhere else for us to increase our number of beds, particularly women with children? That's been a problem for years.
Yes, currently we only receive the emergency solutions grants. The city ESG is only around $188,000, and the state ESG is only around $200,000. So we also utilize that money to do our winter shelters, the emergency motel vouchers, and to support the emergency shelters and the staff that run those emergency shelters. But many emergency shelters, it's not that, it doesn't go very far. And then we do have a new position that Patrice created here with the city for street outreach. So we will have a city employee starting in the next few weeks that will be conducting street outreach with the COC staff, which is about 2 staff right now that we're able to fund with that money.
Do you happen to know if Kate B. Reynolds, Winston-Salem Foundations, and some of our other local foundations that have, I won't say deep pockets, but I will say they have good resources, are they supporting these emergency shelter facilities?
I can't say exactly where everyone gets their funds for, but I know they are receiving additional funding since we do have such limited funding on emergency shelter.
Thank you.
Thank you. May I have a motion for item C4, please?
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Would you now vote yes or no? Thank you. And Dr. Miles, thank you for your comments. Keep us on point. Would the clerk please go to the general agenda item, please?
Item G1, consideration of items regarding permanent financing for 216-unit multifamily rental development known as the Lofts at Motor Road, located in the Northeast Ward.
Good afternoon, Mayor Pro Tem Adams and other committee members. I'm Tanya Skillman, Housing Development Manager for the Housing Development Department, the newly formed Housing Development Department. This project was presented to the committee last month as an information item. Lofts at Motor Road is the proposed development of a 216-unit affordable multifamily affordable housing complex. Located on city-owned land, or proposed to be located on city-owned land in the Northeast Ward. The developer, Winfield Properties, is seeking gap financing for the project totaling $6,579,000 from an allocation of ARPA revenue replacement funds. Additionally, they have offered a $1 purchase price for the lot to minimize the overall cost and amount of gap financing needed. Now, this allows the reduced cost, the below market value for the land, allows for the rents to remain low and our subsidy to remain minimum too. The total development cost for the project is estimated at a little over $41 million. Financing from the city would represent about 16% of the total development cost, or $30,460 per unit. If you have any questions.
Councilmember Clark.
I am going to bring this up at the meeting on the 25th, but one thing we have learned in visiting the other cities we did is that most of them do use loans, not grants. I was pleased to see this is a loan. I do know who Winfield is. They are been in the business for quite some time. I think they're very established, know what they're doing type of company. And I do like the idea that we are going to be making a loan that will be paid back, and then we can continually reinvest that money.
Thank you. Councilmember Burks, this is in your ward, and I did introduce you to these folk.
I just, excuse me, I just want to say I'm very pleased and grateful for the support of the council. Attorney Carmen, Aaron King, interim manager Patrice Toney, so many who have worked so hard to make this happen. Again, 216 affordable multifamily housing units. And I'm just pleased about that coming to the Northeast Ward. So I just want to say thank you to everybody for your help. Thank you.
One of the things, too, that's unique about this project, as the council member stated earlier, this will be the first new development in the Northeast Ward in decades. They will go on the corner. Most of us that live in the area, Motor Road and Walkertown Road, where the Dollar Tree is, all of that land. It will be a very wonderful project. We're talking about different housing. We're talking about beautiful housing. We're talking about being on a major thoroughfare with bus lines and being able to get to the Beltway if they work in Greensboro, if they work in the center city. But that area has gone without development since the Pale Care and other buildings that used to be there that most of us grew up knowing was there. So I look forward to that area being developed versus just being barren like it's been for the past 20 or 30 years. Could I have a Councilmember Scipio?
Just one more comment. I'm in favor of developing the Northeast and the East because we've been neglected for so many years. But I think if we approve this, we pretty much have established the policy that our city land will be sold for $1. This is a major developer. And I just want us to be aware of that. Because when others come and want our property, we are setting the precedent right now that it will be for $1 to those who want to have affordable housing in our neighborhoods. And I understand all of the logic about subsidizing construction, but we are dealing with city-owned property. And I don't want us to forget what we do because urban renewal came through East Winston and the Northeast, devalued our land, displaced people. And if we aren't aware of what we're doing at this time, we will repeat those actions. So I just wanted to comment that I'm in favor of this, but what we're doing is putting out a policy. And if anybody else comes and we want to insist that they pay higher, I'm going to just fight it because today we're setting that precedent. And we have set it in other offerings.
Councilmember McIntosh.
If a developer brings us a project that he can prove to us and he's going to bind the rents on that project for the amount of time that we specify.
30 years.
I don't care if we're buying the furniture for him. If the dollar amount is a reasonable dollar amount that we have come to agreement on, and we've been started out with the number at 25, and then the economy has changed, prices have gone up, we're now working around sort of a de facto 40,000, and it's not set in stone. That's my guideline. If they're going to provide the housing that we need, especially at 216 units, then I don't care if it's free land or a loan or we buy their furniture for them. If we're putting people in housing that need housing that they can afford, to me, the dollar threshold that this council puts into the project is the most important thing.
Again, as was stated earlier, in the city attorney,
Wanted to have us comment.
I was just going to remind council members that this land has been in the city's inventory for well over 10 years, probably close to 20. This land, as you may recall, is land that we actually had to take back from a prior developer because they did not comply with the terms of the agreement. So this is our second effort to make valuable use, or the council's second effort to make valuable use of this land.
thank you. And again, in the CARF, and as was stated earlier, this property, when we do things for affordable housing, and it involves taxpayer infrastructure, taxes, land, sidewalks, curbing, gutters, whatever. And in the new world of housing, particularly affordable housing, you got to have something, because the cost to build a house, an apartment, develop residential, multifamily, whatever you call it, is off the chain. And it is growing every day. If you never look at the stock market results, just look at the red and green when you see it flash on the screen. Inflation right now, years ago when we weren't when the housing crisis happened, builders stopped building houses. They weren't building them like they were for 20, 30 years ago, but they stopped building. And now, because of the cost of the wood, all of the stuff that goes with buying or building a house has increased. We don't have an endless amount of money. That's why we're trying to create a housing trust for Winston, like Charlotte, Greensboro, everybody got. The only thing they got that we don't have, the counties are with them as partners. We working on that. Because no one is able to develop or build housing without all of us helping to do it together. That's a fact. And as we've said, if we can build 200 and something units in a community that has not seen any new development, that's along with choice as well. We're talking about well over what, 800 units maybe? Yes. With these two projects together, that's great. And I'm sure whether any of you in here need that type of housing at average medium income at 30, 40, 50, 60, 80%, there are a lot more people that do than the ones of us sitting in this room. So whatever we need to do as a council and a city to work with those that are willing to put their money in the game, because we don't have the money to put just all our money, because we don't have money like that. But if we can do gap financing and they get a loan from us and then they got their money and they go to the banks and the HUD comes in and the Fed, then that's how all of this works now. And I see Kevin Cheshire, the director of the Housing Authority. He understands how this works. A lot of you in this room understand how this works. So going forward with our housing committee of the whole in a couple of weeks, I'm hoping, I know it's going to be open to the public. You guys need to come or either listen in. And even if before that, I'm going to ask marketing, communication, the city manager and staff to get with them and put a survey or whatever that we need out there so people can go ahead and start sending us their comments as to what they'd like to see or what their suggestions are. Again, the floor is open for a motion at this time.
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Would you please vote? Thank you, and the motion passes. Next item, City Clerk.
Item G2, information on an allocation of $2,158,000 state ARPA funds to Habitat for Humanity of Forsyth County for development and construction of 13 houses in the historic Happy Hill neighborhood located in the East Ward.
And before we hear Ms. Tony, I'm going to let the city attorney tell us, so the public knows, what's the difference in the information in the agenda item, the general versus the actual resolution that's in here? How is the mix?
Let me make sure I understand your question. Some of the items are resolutions that will be going forward to City Council for adoption at its next meeting. Other items are listed as information, and generally, an information item is in committee for 1 month, and unless there are questions that necessitate a longer period of time, it will come back the next month as a resolution for action.
Thank you. Ms. Tony.
Yes, good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, members of the committee and council. This item is an information item and hopefully will be brought back next month for action. This is a little different than our normal housing requests that you just heard. Happy Hill Gardens is one of the oldest communities, Black communities in this city. It has been repeatedly and detrimentally been impacted by policies and decisions made since the 1950s. And so the request has really been a collaborative request from the community. We've had the Happy Hill Neighborhood Association involved, Habitat for Humanity, the Housing Authority of Winston-Salem, Truth and Reconciliation. It's been a true collaborative request. And so the request kind of leans towards what Truth and Reconciliation calls reparative justice and reparative planning. And the land has been undeveloped for some time, and the Housing Authority had a restrictive covenant due to a previous Hope 6 project that some of the land remained undeveloped. And so to remove that restrictive covenant, at least 13 houses need to be built. And so this is an opportunity, since we have American Rescue Plan Act dollars, to fund the 13 houses to be built. Also, Habitat for Humanity has been kind of a verified partner that HUD has authorized to build the homes. And so utilizing Habitat expedites this process, and HUD has approved conveying the land to Habitat for the purpose of building affordable housing on these lots. And so there are 13 lots. We're looking at an average of $166,000 per house to build, for Habitat to build. That would include any aesthetic enhancements, a garage, so forth. These are large lots and can accommodate as such. So the total amount would be $2.158 million of American Rescue Plan Act funds from the city granted to Habitat for Humanity. The lot and land has already, or is in the process of being conveyed to Habitat for the purpose of building these lots. Once they are built, that does free up the land for further development. They just needed to get over this 13-lot hurdle. The community would be involved in the planning of the remaining vacant lots in the community, with hopefully on a phase 2, first priority to people from the community or people who are legacy landowners in Habitat that could come back, in Happy Hill, that could come back to the property. Any questions?
Councilmember Clark.
There are a lot of empty lots down here, lots of them. Some of them are ours, and some of them are the housing authorities.
That's right.
Who owns these lots?
These lots are owned by the Housing Authority. They have the ability to convey it to Habitat for Humanity for the purpose of building on those lots. Okay. Once we build the lots, once Habitat builds the lot, they need the money to build the lot. So the request is to give Habitat the money to build the 13 lots. Okay. Once they are built, it frees up the restrictive covenants for the rest of the land.
Mm-hmm. I just want to be sure these are not city lots.
These are not city lots.
I'm assuming that Hall's Housing Authority in Winston-Salem gave them to them at a very, very good price.
They conveyed them to Habitat.
$1? Okay, now, so just want to be sure, in distressed areas, this is the third example today where lots have been conveyed, not our lots, but
that's right.
Housing. Now, the city does own a lot of lots in here, but.
Some scattered lots, yes.
The only concern I have, and I know this is just information, but this is a grant. This is not alone, and I
That's
have
right.
issues with that.
Okay.
And I'll just leave it at that, and I've got some ideas in that area. But we're giving $2 million to Habitat is who we're giving it to,
Yes,
not to the homeowners.
to
who will have
Habitat.
to take a mortgage out and pay Habitat. I'm assuming Habitat carries the mortgages. Anyway, I'll express that concern. We'll deal with it later.
Okay.
Councilmember McIntosh.
I've spoken with representatives of Habitat about this project and got very excited because this is a parcel of land that has been vacant and cleared since the 60s, I believe. 70s? No. Happy Hills has been cleared since the early 1980s. The majority of that land has been available.
The Happy Hill Gardens
Okay.
was,
Excuse me?
A significant amount of property in Happy
It's
Hills
been
has been
a long
tied up
Find out.
because of a contractual agreement between Hawes and the feds and a developer in Charlotte. That's all I know. I just know many people have taken a run at this property and tried to do something with it. So I was very excited to hear that this has come back into play and that Habitat's project could be the springboard to do that. And I had said I would support spending $50,000 per unit, per door in that area, which is well above our sort of established dollar amount that we would contribute. When I heard $160,000, I about fell out of my chair. And the number of units that we could get out of that parcel, we're talking about here a project that's got 216 units. That makes a dent in the major problem. 13 lots, 13 units doesn't really have an impact on our overall need. I'm disappointed we're not getting more housing in that area than we're getting. And the price per unit, I don't understand.
Councilmember Monday.
Thank you. I have every reason in the world to think that this is good information, that the neighborhood community, the community and neighborhood association is involved. I know that Habitat will be good stewards of this money. However, we have had in the past not the best history with the neighbors in Happy Hills. I would love to, before we vote on this, or maybe the evening that we vote on this, to hear from the neighborhood.
No. Point well taken, Councilmember Monday. Ms. Tony, whenever I see a group of people show up from Happy Hill, I know that something's, might not be to their liking, and if it's their liking, they don't generally show up in these numbers. They send the representatives who usually always show up for it, but this many people, Councilmember Clark asked me, he said, what's going on? I said, Happy Hill is here. So, this is information only. We thank you. I would also hope that when this comes back next month, that Habitat and the developers or whoever will bring hopefully their plan or something that they can also present before we allow, again, the public to weigh in on it. Again, my advice to Happy Hill and their friends and partners, you know where to find us. Email us. That's how a lot of stuff getting done lately. People get on the email and they weigh us out. Councilmember Scipio, Councilmember Clark.
Information is very important to have in every decision. Happy Hill has not always been happy. It was in 1768, the plantation for Salem. It's plantation land where slaves lived, worked. So there are some spirits there that we must consider. Dear lovely residents, just let me say this and not have too much feedback. I love you very much, but I think it's more important for us to let people know what things mean to us as African Americans. Slavery existed in this area. Our ancestors told and labeled, and they were denied access to be full participants in America. I can't forget that, and I can't let people act like it didn't happen when I know that it did. Now, in 1836, something marvelous happened. The doctor who actually ran the plantation at Salem freed 17 of his slaves and sent them back to Liberia. The first example of liberation for our community. People did not take that on and let it go through the community. Slavery continued. With the emancipation in 1872, the members of the Salem congregation platted what we know as Happy Hill, that plantation, with the explicit direction for that land to be sold to freed slaves, to be home owners, to own the land, to be participants in what we believe is the American dream. That did happen, but you also have to understand that Jim Crow was part of our existence, and segregation, redlining. There was no investment. But around 1949, 48, the government decided that there would be subsidized public housing for poor people, and Happy Hill gardens were created, and it displaced homeowners significantly. Then, around 1960, Highway 52 was built. It displaced other homeowners in Happy Hill. These are government programs validated and endorsed by local government. 2000 came, Hope 6 came, and the dream was to tear down the gardens and replace it with better housing and single-family homes. Funds ran out. Only 6 houses were built for single-family homes on that land. About 71 other lots, 71 to 75 lots have been vacant since 2000. It's been vacant. When I think of Happy Hill, I can think of no other place in this city of Winston-Salem that deserves investment over and above what we normally do. That land has been so abused.
Okay.
And we have the funds right now to say we will take a bold stand and we will restore the vision of home ownership for African Americans and people who are impoverished. And this is what we must do. The cost is important. Habitat needs to have the money to move forward. If we waited for them to do the fundraising, we'll be 3 more years out. We need to have this investment. And at the same time, the vision is to unite this city in a way it has never been united by having the Home Builders Association come and help build in our community. We have to stop thinking about the cost of the dollars and talk about the investment in people. It is so important not to take those funds we have and misdirect them to other activities, because the only reason we have those opera dollars is because of the poor people who live in these neighborhoods. And we must do that. We must not divert these funds. So I'm asking my council members to open your heart and understand the legacy and the burden that we as African Americans have carried all of our lives because of public policy. This is the time to show strong, progressive leadership in Winston-Salem when it comes to healing the divide that exists.
Thank you, Council Member. Councilmember Clark.
Just real quickly, Ms. Tony, you don't need to, you can do this at your convenience. I'd like to know how many empty lots there are that the Housing Authority owns and how many we own.
We have 35, they have 74.
Okay.
Thank you. This is information, and we will see this again next month. City Clerk, next item, please.
Item G3, information on motel hotel conversion project with private developer and Step Up America for permanent supportive housing.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, committee and council members. Chantel McClam, Neighborhood Services Director. This is an information item, and it's just to give you a brief update of where the motel conversion project stands right now. Back in October of last year, the City Council approved a 3-year commitment and home ARP funds to go with Project Step Up America to produce permanent supportive housing units, and doing so through motel conversion. They have found a location, the Innkeeper on Peters Creek Parkway. Right now, they are in the final phases of the contracting for the purchase of this property, and they are expected to convert this motel into 83 permanent supportive single-bedroom units. The project is expected to be completed in the next 9 to 12 months. So we are looking in the future at more creative ways such as this. We hear the community, we understand the pain, we see our homelessness situation every day, and so we're looking at more creative ways just like this to increase our capacity as it relates to permanent supportive housing.
Thank you. Councilmember Clark.
This is an item that I would refer to. I love this idea of taking a hotel that is in disrepair and unused. What I have been told by those, and I know where many of the encampments are, and when I get people calls and ask, well, why don't you do something? I say, well, where do you want us to put them? The shelters are full. We can clean them out, and they just go somewhere else. We've got to have a place to take people with dignity. And here, everyone gets their own. It's kind of a one-bedroom apartment with an efficiency kitchen, I'm assuming, and a bathroom and whatever. But I like the idea. I also like the idea, and I don't know that much about the folks we're dealing with, but it's my understanding they have the resources to help these people find permanent either disability payments or whatever it may be.
Wraparound service.
Yes, Step Up
Provide the wraparound services so that you are going to need income every month to pay the water bill, the electric bill, upkeep, whatever it may be. So I'm guardedly optimistic that we have finally found a solution here. I will tell you, during COVID, we actually rented the Ramada Inn up on Akron. And that's where a lot of the homeless folks were sheltered. And again, that's kind of a one-bedroom apartment type thing. So I think it's one of the answers. It may not be all the answers. I have volunteered for many years at Samaritan Ministries, and they can house 70 or 80 people, but the bunks are right beside each other. There's no privacy. There's no place anyone can kind of call their own. So I like the idea, and I'm going to support it when the time comes.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember McIntosh.
I was there when we had the meeting with the developers that came and talked about this, and it was really eye-opening and just, I mean, what they do is a model that they have done all over the country. They know how to do it. My only disappointment is it's only 88 units. I mean, it would have been great if they could have doubled that. And the fact that we're putting supportive money in for supportive wraparound services, it's a one-time deal. We pay for 3 years, and they have pledged to raise that money to keep those supportive services going in perpetuity. So again, my only problem with this is it's only 88 units.
It's a step in the right direction.
It's a step in the right direction.
Like I said, our goal is to continue to try to find creative ways such as this in order to increase our capacity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Burke.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. McClain. I think this is an outstanding idea, and we need to find more hotels throughout the city so that we can increase the number of beds, so that we can have more opportunities to take care of our citizens. My only question, will we have wraparound services at each location? For example, will we have the case managers? Will we have the resourced personnel there? Great.
Step Up America has dedicated, I think, one case manager per 25 units. Yeah. So yes, they are prepared to offer those services.
And one of the other things that cities are looking at is not just the reuse of hotels and motels, but the reuse of shopping center areas, particularly in African American or poor communities. We have lots of shopping centers and commercial areas that might have been great 20, 30 years ago, and now they're in blight and disarray. So we're also talking about that as well. How do we get funding sources and developers to come in and reuse or recreate or repurpose those areas as well? This is information. Councilmember Mundy.
This is great news, thank you, and I also wish we could have a couple more hotels. This is the hotel that is almost right next door to Marketplace, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So one of the things just to point out to anyone who might be listening or looking who doesn't know that location, it is easily within walking distance of Compare Foods, shopping center, entertainment, there's a dollar store, there's movies, you know, this is an ideal location for walking, and it's on a bus line as well, so we couldn't have chosen better. My only request is let's not be like the federal government and make it so difficult for people to take advantage of this that we can't fill those 82 rooms with the right people, and work with the homeless community and those subject matter experts to come up with what the criteria needs to be and what the process is for filling those.
We definitely will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, please.
Item G4, information on the Residences at Indiana Avenue project, a 180-unit multifamily development financed by 4% North Carolina FHA low-income affordable housing tax credit, located in the North Ward.
Thank you.
Good afternoon again.
Good afternoon.
Winfield Properties is developing 180 units of rental housing for families just northeast of the Indiana Avenue and the Thabra Road intersection in the North Ward. The residences at Indiana Avenue will consist of 3 three-story buildings and 3 3-4-story split buildings, which will include 27 one-bedroom, 81 two-bedroom, and 72 three-bedroom apartments. Units will be set aside to target affordable rents as follows: 51 units set aside at 30% area median income, 55 units set aside at 60% area median income, and 74 units set aside for 80% area median income. The community will also feature a separate clubhouse building, clothing laundry facility, computer center, and common space for resident use. Throughout the property, the community will include sidewalks, benches, and a picnic shelter with grilling area. Each apartment will include a kitchen with a range and range hood, dishwasher, frost-free refrigerator, mini blinds, pantry, walk-in closets, central air heat pump, and an outside storage area. Winfield Properties, the developer for the project, requests $4,850,000, equal to $26,944 per unit in gap financing for the cities, from the city's ARPA funds, ARPA-enabled funds. If funded, this amount would represent 13% of the total development costs, which are estimated to be about $37.6 million. You have any questions?
But this is a loan.
It is a
It's a
loan,
loan.
absolutely.
Councilmember Clark.
Well, you took my first sentence. It is a loan. and
It's a
I'm
loan.
pleased that.
2%.
Ms. Tony, again, you don't have to do this tonight. I'll let you do it in the morning. We need to have a listing of all the buckets, the ARPA funds, A, B, C, whatever. And as we've allocated this, we need to subtract it out, even the loans. You can put when they pay it back, you can put the money back in the bucket. I will give this speech tomorrow at Finance, but folks, at the end of the day, our checks have to clear the bank. And I know there's only X amount of money in these funds, and they're being drained very, very quickly. And while we have spent, I don't know if y'all kept up with this, we have spent well over $10 million already, or recommended for the council next Monday, of loans and/or giving away lots for $1 for a number of houses. But I do know how much money's in those buckets, and we are quickly approaching the end of them. And so it is important how much we spend per unit and whether or not it's a loan or a grant and this, that, and the other, because we do want to be sure that we continually refurbish these buckets if we can to keep going. But and I'm just going to say, because I know there's been a lot of work, and I'll even pat Ms. Burke on the back. She did talk to a number of housing folks, and they have committed. And Winfield, again, is a very reputable builder. They have come in. And it's good to see, we've had a lot of talk, but now we're seeing some action. And I do appreciate that from all the staff and everybody else involved. Thank you. I'll be supporting this when the time comes.
This property, as you know, yeah, it's in the North Ward. A lot of you, again, from Winston, you know where Bethabara in Indiana is. You know that there's Salem Town up the street. There's the original Bethabara Garden Apartments. There's North Hills, North State Apartments right there. The Stonewall communities across the street. The Bethabara Moravian Church is on the corner. You got another church across the street. It's walking distance to Food Line, Harris Teeter, and Lowe's. It's walking distance to medical, emergency, or primary care. It's on 2 or 3 of the major bus lines come through there. Right now, Mr. King, I got a road that's down, but I'm hoping y'all gonna update me when my road gonna get back open. But this project, the community embraces it because for those of you, again, that know, apartments right there on that corner have been there. I don't even know when they built Bethabara. All I know is been there ever since I can remember. And I remember when rentals, young people, teachers, college students after graduating, nurses and others, they lived in those apartments. And over the years, those apartments now have become, they're getting ready to update and upgrade all of those as well. Just for information, I think there's another project coming in that area because of, again, when the housing crisis happened, I told people repeatedly, and Councilmember McIntosh and Clark, people aren't going to own houses like we owned houses. It's expensive. It's very expensive. And I know people want a house. I had 2 apartments before I bought my house. It's expensive now. I know rents at apartments are hitting over $2,000 a month, 1 bedrooms. But these apartments, again, are based on income and affordability. And the affordability is built in per the city of Winston-Salem of the new requirements that we all voted on last year and year before to ensure, just like other areas of the city, that people don't move in and a year later you got to move out because they've doubled your rent. It's based on your income, average medium income. Ms. Tony or Ms. McClain, would you tell the public what average medium income is for Winston-Salem or for Forsyth County? What is that number? Is it 38, 42, 32,000, 48?
It depends on the family composition, so probably around 60,000 for a household of four-ish. Are you talking about the AMI? I'm sorry. Were you talking about the
Area median
AMI?
income.
I beg your pardon?
Were you speaking about the AMI?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
okay.
yes.
Yeah, it so varies depending on the number of people in your household, but probably a family of four is around 60-ish thousand.
But for an individual
Individuals
making
probably 30.
30, that's what I always go by, about 30-something thousand dollars, which is still not even really $15 an hour. So the need right now in every city in this country is to be able to produce housing that the vast majority of the people need. If a person's making $100,000, they can handle this on their own. But the people that are making, because the country won't move the income levels, we have now got to make sure that folks are not left like they've been before. And we've got to help create that housing. And I know, like Councilmember Clark said, we running out of money. But this is, again, where you all show up here. You all need to get with the county. They got buckets of money. Yeah, I said it. I know y'all thinking, oh, they gonna be mad at us. They mad at us anyway. But the point is, Winston-Salem is 2/3 of Forsyth County. The money that's in the bucket is our money. And if we're not holding all of us accountable for where the money's spent, who gets the money, how it's spent, then that's on us. But we talk to them on a regular basis. We need y'all to start emailing them the way you do us and calling us and showing up at their meetings and what you call it, picking in with some signs. You need to do that because somebody in this group needs to go and look at the amount of money that's not on the city side, but on the county side, and you'll see there is a huge difference. This item is for information. And we will be now moving on to Mr. King.
Item
And Mr.
G5.
Murphy.
G5.
Item G5,
Yeah,
information on comprehensive plan forward 2045.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, members of council, Amy Crum, Assistant Planning Director.
Good evening.
I'm going to give you a brief status update of where we are with Forward 2045, our new comprehensive plan. So just a progress update. Our survey is online, as is our website, and that's forward2045.com. I hope everyone's had a chance to take a peek at that and look at that. We also have the survey in Spanish now as well, so that is available for our residents to take. It's a fairly simple survey.
I apologize. I'm going to interrupt you, and everybody doesn't even know what 4025 means. We giving new names to new things every so many years. Help people understand what this is.
Okay, so Forward 2045 will replace our current comprehensive plan, which is Legacy 2030 update. And a comprehensive plan is essentially our vision document of how we want to grow and develop it into the future. So looking about 20 years out, what priorities do we have? What do we want to implement policy-wise? And what's important to us in terms of preservation, improvement, and what do we want to add? And so it can cover any items such as housing, what we've talked a lot about, economic development, amenities, land preservation, open space preservation, sustainability, appearance. So all of those items that we look at in our community as to what we want to be, that's what the comprehensive plan is. It's a vision document. It doesn't get into the details of it, but it sort of sets that destination that we want. If you've ever, one of the analogies that we use is Google Maps. You got to figure out where you're going before you can put it in and get all your twists and turns and exit ramps that you need to take. But we need to determine where we want to be in 20 years and what do we want, what's important to us, and what do we need to be improving on or preserving or adding in our community. So that's essentially what the comprehensive plan does.
Thank you.
Like I said, the survey is online. If you haven't taken it, I do encourage folks to take it. It's very interactive, not a lot of typing unless, that's not your thing. And again, it is in Spanish. The website is forward2045.com. We do have a lot of information on that website. So I hope folks can go through the multiple pages of it. We've been doing social media postings. Marketing has done videos for us to talk about the comprehensive plan, and we've done other marketing efforts as well. We held a series of stakeholder meetings over the summer, as well as presentations to our public boards and commissions. And we've attended a bunch of different community events with tables trying to get the word out that we are doing this, this sort of planning process. We've done teen outreach, and we've also done, that's the cover there, of an activity book for children to sort of get them, thinking about the communities and what they like in their communities, and that's been distributed to our Recreation and Parks Department. We've also have a poster that's been distributed to the County Parks and Recreation Department, as well as the library. And we've scheduled our public input meetings for October. So just going through our outreach efforts, we've held 8 public stakeholder meetings through June and August. You can see the different topic areas there. We had one extra meeting at the end, sort of a catch-all for folks who could not attend their topic-based meeting. They could come to that catch-all meeting. We invited 127 groups or individuals, and we had 72 participants. We've gone to 14 boards and commissions and presented information on the comprehensive plan and what it is and how to get involved. And for some of those, we actually had a discussion period, and some of it was just sort of informational. It really depended upon their agenda. We've also presented to other organizations. You can see those listed there. We are always open to presenting to some outside organizations who will have us. And so any way we can spread the message about the comprehensive plan, we are welcome to do that. And we have gone through 13 community events. We were just at Cobblestone Market and Fiesta this weekend. And talking about our teen summer programs, we essentially went to the 3 recreation centers that have teen programs, basically 11 to 14-year-olds, through the summer. And then we essentially basically just gave them a scenario of, you have land and here's a blank parcel of land. Essentially, you can develop how you want. And we gave them some prompts to think about: where are people going to live? Where are people going to work? What kind of businesses are you going to have? How are people going to get around? And we just allowed them to come up with whatever they wanted to come up with. And so we had a lot of interesting ideas. They are very involved in that, and really had a good fun with that. And you see 3 examples there, but they range from everything from the one that McKinsey did has a golf cart track, but we also had one that had a flying car dealership. So we had all kinds of stuff that came in, but we wanted to, again, get children interested in the community and how the community grows and what they want to see in their community. So looking at our survey, these numbers are from last week. They've actually gone up a little bit. So we've had over 1,600 survey participants so far. It's actually 1,651 as of this afternoon. Over 66,000 data points have come from that survey. And regarding our website, we've had over 3,500 page views, about 2,300 site sessions, almost 1,700 unique visitors, and people are spending roughly about 6 minutes on the website. Looking at our website activity from geographically, this is, again, from last week. This is the county-wide, and you can sort of see the basically little blue blurbs are essentially where we're seeing activity on our website. We do notice the area that does not have any activity. We are working on that, doing some targeting outreach. We have contacted marketing, and we're setting up a meeting to get a targeted outreach marketing plan going together for those areas. To get them involved in the process.
This looks like Kevin has hit the website about 4,000 times.
But when you look at it statewide, we have a lot of activity outside of Forsyth County as well. I don't know what's going on in Charlotte, but apparently they're very interested in our plan. And then when you look at it from a worldwide view, You can see we have people from across the country coming in. This is most likely due to VPN networks coming in where they show your location as something other than. Though I will say that some of these may be from other plans because there are a multitude of 20, 40, something or other plans across the country. But that's likely what's going on for there. So looking at our next steps, our survey will be open till October 31st. As of right now, we can extend that if needed. And we are reviewing our written comments right now, at least to August 1st, and that's just so we can have some idea of what people are talking and saying and wanting when we go out and do our public outreach meetings, but we will include all comments that we receive once that survey closes. We've had attendance at events this September that we'll be doing. We have our public input meetings in October. Again, working with marketing on that targeted outreach. And we'll continue to present to any organizations that will have us. We're happy to do that. Looking a little farther along the lines, November through late winter, spring, again, we'll be doing that targeted outreach, looking at input analysis, creating those draft recommendations, and then finalizing the format for the plan. And then late winter, early spring, probably February, March, we'll have another round of public input meetings. These will be specifically talking about growth management, and they'll be charrette-based. So upcoming events, we will be at Apple Festival on the 23rd, and we will also be at it's not listed up here, we just got a confirmation of this, we'll be at the Forsyth County Fun Fest Community Outreach, which is also on the 23rd, and that's over at the Social Services Public Health Campus. We'll be at the fair, and we're looking to be at the fairgrounds as well, the Fairgrounds Market. Our upcoming public meetings, we will have 9 different meetings at 8 different locations. They will be geographically spread across the county with 5 city locations and 3 county locations. And the format for these will be a presentation where we sort of unpack what a comprehensive plan is and the input that we've received, as well as then breaking out and doing what's called a World Cafe, where folks are given, color, and you go to that table, you start there, and you just sort of make your way around. We'll have 4 or 5 tables on individual topics with interactive activities at each table to, again, trying to sort of drill down into what's important for individuals and what they want to see in their community. These are our upcoming public meetings. I will say we just found out at about 3 o'clock today that we will not be able to have the meeting on the 23rd at the Public Health Building because of COVID vaccinations. They will be using that. So we will find another location in that same general area for that date. And with that, I will answer any questions anyone has.
Councilmember Monday.
Thank you for the presentation. What demographics are you capturing from the respondents?
So I will say that I'll preface this by the demographic questions on the survey are completely voluntary. So even though we have, 1,600 survey responses, we probably only have about 1,100, 1,200 actual demographic data from that. So there's about 500 that we're not getting. But they skew more women, 2 to 1, basically women to men, primarily white, primarily upper class, so a household income of over 110,000.
Are you capturing age or age groups?
Yes, age as well. So basically, the primary one is about 36 to 50, but basically from 26 to 65. That's our prime age range. They're very close, those 3.
I just want to make sure that we do pay lots of attention to those folks who will be in the middle of their earning career in 2045.
Yes. Every time we see teenagers walking by, we try to gather them and try to get them involved because they will be inheriting whatever comes out. And we try to stress that to them. And a lot of times we get a little blank stares, but some folks have really gotten into it, and we've actually been quite surprised at what they've told us. So,
thank you.
Councilmember McIntosh.
Amy, first of all, thanks for a great report. As usual, you did do an excellent job of compiling and reporting on stuff that's really important. it's a tough act to follow after the 2030. That was an incredible report. I really want to know who's going to do the song this time.
I don't think we're going to have a song this time.
Last time it was a really pretty effective ditty. No, I do appreciate the outreach, and it's sort of a shame that we're not getting a broader feedback from the community, but the effort's there. So all I can say is keep that up, and let's drill down and see if we can't get a wider base of people coming in. But it's a big effort. I mean, it's a huge effort, and I really appreciate it. And at the same time, Downtown Partnership is doing their downtown plan. You guys are involved in that as well. So you'll have a lot on your plate. So thanks for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Councilmember Scipio.
Thank you, Amy, for this. One of the things I hope we're going to be intentional about is, because of looking at the future, is connecting with our high schools. If we could get in with them at the school system, I'm sure that we'll get some phenomenal feedback from those young people, and middle schoolers too. They're pretty astute also. So I hope we would do some intentional reach out to those two groups.
Well, I can say this because I've been through, I think this is my second one. Yeah. This is important. And when we have zoning issues, or we're getting ready to redo an ordinance, a resolution, whatever, and then people show up after the fact, when it's this process that helps guide us as to what you want. And people know, if you're not saying anything, if you're not weighing in on anything, then how are we supposed to know what you think if you just don't, I haven't taken the survey, but I'm going to look at it tonight, because if we're not doing surveys like companies and products, like give me 5 emojis and I pick the one I like, and then they tell me, do you not like any of these? No, it's got to be really simplistic. And the call outs for my comments have to be, as they do in these surveys, they'll give me 5 or 6 things, Amy. And then they'll have a little comment box that nobody really fills in unless you just heart set on it. But we've got to make it easier, and we've got to, with marketing and county and us, we have got to do better on this, because we won't be here when people come down here with the pitchforks after the elected officials, because of decisions that we made based on the input that we got. In a city of 250,000+ people, we need at least 25,000 people to weigh in on this thing. So when a developer is out there in your community, and it's like what we've been talking about tonight, like yours, Brookberry, when you got 100 acres or 200 acres and nobody's done anything with them, and all of a sudden this developer shows up and they're going to build 700 houses, and the community is up in arms. They don't want it. But I bet they probably never filled out the previous plan as to what they'd like to see in their community. And I think we just need to, as Councilman McIntosh and Scipio said, and Monday, we need to hammer home a little bit more between now and October, like we had to do with the census. Again, we would have gotten more money from HUD and the government and ARPA if we had just been counted during the census. So we stuck. But thank you so much again for all the informative presentations you be. Councilmember Monday, I called on you.
I want you to adjourn, but can I make a suggestion? Utilize our CALs. They're very, very aware of neighborhood associations and chat leaders and community leaders, and get them to help you get this word out. I think they're an underutilized resource.
Yeah, and
mine is not underutilized. And I'm sure some of the rest of them up here would agree with me as well.
We have presented to them. We do a special presentation to the counties.
Thank you anyway.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you, Amy. Any more questions? Good of the order? This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.